that was the crisis, was foreclosure, the loss of everything, not wanting to reinvent that same wheel and see what was out there. So here we are. Well, when I was 24, I did do the nomadic thing. I sold everything. I got down to one backpack and I went to Europe. And while I had planned on staying there for an indefinite period of time, I was only there 3 months. But it taught me that I could. I think it was one of those moments where I realized even if I didn't know anybody and I didn't speak the language and I was in a place that I didn't know, I could survive. And that was a lesson that really stuck with me. My second nomadic life, I take my life with me in the tiny trailer. In my space, both nomad trips really were precipitated by a crisis. The first crisis was when I went to school originally, it was to be a filmmaker, and I had the Hollywood job, and I got fired and quit on the same day. And, the crisis was, well, that was my dream. What do I do? And so I thought, well, I'll try to go to Europe. I'll backpack. So that was the crisis, the first precipitating event. The second precipitating crisis that got me into this fabulous lifestyle was I lost everything. I wasn't paying attention. I had left my safe job to start my own business, and it was really bad timing. It was 2007. I cashed out and I was just starting to do well. In 2008, everything crashed. And so I had to make that decision about, trying to sustain a lifestyle I didn't want. I didn't want to live in California. I didn't want to retire in California. I didn't want to go back to being a social worker. And I didn't want to pay for a house that put me in a position that I didn't want to be in. So I liken it to a bad relationship. Sometimes you just have to cut your losses and move on. And that was the decision to let the house go. And so for me, the journey, and I've been really looking at the hero's journey. I'll talk more about that, I think, another day, is the hero's journey is really finding your purpose in life. And like I had said, for me, purpose is who I am and how can I be my own hero. And this life, this nomadic life, one was to save my own life because I just didn't do well, in the traditional system. But the second piece was, this new phase, and this is what, this video series is all about, is how do we save the land? How do we save rural America? How do we save the small town? And what I see as a really key component, which has been, through the course of history, is the nomadic component to that. I think one of the things that I have witnessed in terms of watching, everybody, when I did this nomadic thing so many years ago, that we didn't have internet and we didn't have cell phones. I guess you know how old I am now. And how now, everybody's online. It's like this whole different way of doing things. You splash every moment. And how the new aspect is, what do you share? What do you put online? And so much of what I see online is really about the adventure. It's about going to see, to observe the place, but also, to ride bikes or to swim or to snorkel, or it's about the physical aspect. It's about going and being passive observers to the wonder and the beauty of nature. But for me, it was never about that. It was about meeting new people, trying to find my tribe. And what it's really become is not just a continuation of my own, spiritual walk. My walk in faith is what I talked about when I first started, but it's become how I want to be. Something about being in nature almost 24/7 is it's opened something up in me. And for me, purpose is who you are, not what you do. And this lifestyle is all about who I am. It challenges me. It's hard. It's uncomfortable. I'm outside. I'm in the elements. I have a lot of uncertainty. I have a lot of frustration. So it challenges me to become more.
Away from them, and no
these key questions that I've answered in my own search is, the real question isn't who are we as we talk about ourselves in group identity, but who am I? I mean, that really is the spiritual journey, the spirit of self. And it isn't about how I will survive, but how will we survive? This question about how we will survive, what world will we build? I think there's a real place for the nomad, for the especially with the digital world and the internet, that we can be anywhere and work. Our purpose isn't to survive alone. The system of nature itself is a cooperative venture. And so we need to focus on how we can work together so that we can survive. And the best way to do that is to ask ourselves, who do we need to be? Who do I need to be in order to contribute to a world in which everyone wins? And so that is my purpose-driven nomadic life in a nutshell. So thank you for sharing this time with me, and well, Lilith, Freedom, and me, we'll see you next time.